see, we learn and gain confidence in whatever we think is going to help us fulfill what's most meaningful to us, most important to us, the highest value. Almost every parent wants to have their children confident and feel like they were to stand on their own 2 feet eventually and have resilience and adaptability to whatever happens in their life. So my topic today is about building confidence and resilience in the younger children. Well, children in the elementary school age, probably. That's the main age I was thinking of when I wanted to do this topic. So, first of all, everyone, regardless of age, has a set of priorities, a set of values that they live their life by. Now, in the 1950s, it was thought that children were blank slates and that socialization and parental influence was to give the children their value system. That's a bit outdated. And the reality today is that children, even when they're very young, already have a set of values. You can add to them, you can influence them, you can learn to communicate in what you want them to take on in their values and incorporate them, but they already have a set of values that are unique to them. No two people have the same set of values. So beware of the autocratic imposition of your value system onto your kids and expecting them to live in your values, because you'll probably find that that's pretty frustrating. That's like getting your spouse to try to live in your values and rewarding them if they do and punishing them if they don't. Sometimes that backfires to some degree. I mean, there's a necessity for communicating, but it's caring and respectfully communicating what you value in terms of their values that get the results done. So anyway, these children have their own unique set of values. And whatever is highest on their set of values, they're inspired spontaneously to take action on. That's why you see these young boys sometimes do spontaneous video games, and the girls are sitting there on social media or something like that. They spontaneously do that. But if you want them to do something that is not the highest value, then you will have usually extrinsic motivation. Reward them if they do, punishment if they don't, do what you want in terms of what their value is. So you'll say something to the effect that if you do what I've asked, you get to play your video games. If you don't, you can't play your video games. So you use extrinsic motivation to supplement the drive to get them to do what you want them to do. Well, that's pretty normal. That's a process that we all use. But if you want them to be more confident and more resilient, just know that the maximum confidence and resilience is when they feel that they're fulfilling their highest values. So anytime somebody is prioritizing their life and doing something that's most important to them and meaningful to them, their confidence in themselves, because we tend to walk our talk in our highest values. We tend to limp our life in our lowest. We tend to grow in self-worth and confidence in our highest values. We tend to lower self-worth and lack of confidence in our lowest. No, I have a high value on teaching, and if I'm teaching, I gain confidence. If I was to all of a sudden try to cook or do IT repairs or something, I'd probably be, overwhelmed. Let's put it that way. It's not high in my values, so I don't really learn in that area. We all learn most in what we value most. So the confidence and the place of most resilience, where we have the most objectivity and neutral view, where we're not fearing the loss of things or fearing the gain of things, most resilience occurs in our highest values. So the first thing I would encourage you to do is to take the time to identify what is highest on your child's values. And I have a value determination process on my website. I can encourage you to consider it. It's free, it's private, it's complimentary. In other words, we go in there and there's 13 questions you want to ask yourself or ask your child, and really pay close attention to the answers. How do they fill their space? How do they spend their time, etc.? These 13 questions help you narrow down what is their life demonstrating as most important to them. Because that's what you can expect them to be the most resilient and most confident in, whatever's highest on their value. If you expect and project your values onto them and expect them to excel and do things that aren't highest on their values, just know you're probably going to falsely label them. You're going to probably think, well, they're unmotivated, or they're not confident, or they're not driven, or they're this. And you typically put labels on people whenever you project a value onto somebody that's not highest on their value. You can rely on your boy or girl to be doing, or whatever gender it is, you can rely on them to live according to their values. The hierarchy of their values dictates their destiny, and it determines how they perceive, decide, and act. And if you expect them to do something outside what their highest value is, you can pretty well guarantee they're going to betray you, because they're not going to get around to doing something that's important to you necessarily unless it's important to them. So finding out what their highest value is the first step. Then taking the things, the classes that they may want to be taking, the job responsibilities around the house, or the chores that they're to be taking, anything that you want them to take in, it is wise to communicate the value of that, whatever that is, in terms of their highest value. How will doing their homework help them fulfill their highest value? How will having them do the chores help them fulfill their highest value? If you can't communicate in the way where they're seeing that they're going to get their highest values met, they're not likely to take on the accountability of what you want them to do. And they're going to be less confident in doing it. If see, we learn and gain confidence in whatever we think is going to help us fulfill what's most meaningful to us, most important to us, the highest value. So if we can articulate what we want them to do, the classes, the chores, or whatever it is, or the experiences that we want them to have in terms of their values. Now, how do we do that? We take whatever their values are, their highest values, particularly the top three maybe, and you ask, how specifically is doing this chore going to help them fulfill that? If you can't see how it's going to help them fulfill it, you won't be able to articulate it in a way where they'll get it. And they're not necessarily dedicated to finding out how that chore is going to help them fulfill their values. So unless you either bring it out of them by asking them, or imposing that by finding out how it is yourself and then communicating it in their values. If you're selling anything in the world, and communication in relationship to selling, if you're communicating anything and selling anything, you have to communicate what you value, the product, service, or idea, in terms of the customer's value. Well, your children are your customers. You want them to be confident and resilient. We therefore want to be able to have them do something that's meaningful and fulfilling to them, where they'll excel, where they have the most objective resilience and have the most confidence in their behavior. And that's always where their highest value is. So we want to care about our children enough to articulate what we want them to master or develop in terms of what they spontaneously want to do. And if we can communicate it in a way where they're getting what they want, if we help them get what they want, we get what we want. We want confident, resilient kids. And in the area of our highest value, when we're there, the blood glucose and oxygen goes into the forebrain and activates more of the medial prefrontal cortex. Even in children, it takes it away from the amygdala and puts it into the developing brain. And by the way, most kids, children, don't develop the executive center to usually in the mid-20s. But the reality is that when children are doing something that's highly engaging and really high on their value, the blood glucose and oxygen goes in that area and it starts developing early. And so then you have an executively functioned, resilient, adaptable individual that's more logical, more reasonable, instead of just emotional and volatile and out of control. So our kids are more stable, our kids are more resilient, our kids are more confident in their highest value. Their brain is developing and they're excelling in that, and they gain more momentum and more vision for their life and wake up more leadership roles if they do. So taking the time to find out what the current value is, and it's evolving and changing, and I would recommend you do the value determination at least quarterly, and then communicating what you believe will be of help to them, the chores, the homework, the whatever it may be, and find out yourself as a parent and train your children how to find how whatever they're asked to do, how's it helping them fulfill their highest value. They're more engaged, more inspired to do it. They'll be more resilient when they're doing it, more willing to embrace the pains and pleasures of it if they do. Because whenever you can see that something's helping you fulfill what's most important to you, you have way more perseverance, more resilience, you're way more confident, you build up momentum, and you achieve. So taking the time to actually ask, how specifically is the thing that I would love for them to do, their class that they want to do well in, or the chores, how specifically is it helping them fulfill their highest value? if you can't see it and you go blank and you think their values are wrong and you think yours are right and you think, well, because I'm the adult, I know better than that. Well, that's fine. You may be true, but at the same time, if you want to communicate with them and help them gain their confidence and resilience, it's caring enough to meet them in their model of the world and their value system and communicate what you value in terms of their value system. Whenever you do, they're more receptive and open and listen, and they'll inject the values of what you want. They'll take those on. The second you try to go and force them to do something, the more they retaliate, the more the sympathetic nervous system comes on, the more they have challenge, the more they shut down their executive center, the more they go into the amygdala, the more they become volatile and reactive and non-resilient. So don't autocratically impose these value systems onto them and expect them to live in what you think is important. Care enough about, I mean, think about this. If you were to meet somebody that was a customer, how would you communicate with them? You just autocratically say, buy my product, and otherwise you're an idiot? Or go to your room if you don't buy my product? No, it wouldn't get you anywhere. So care enough about your children to find out what their highest values are and respect them enough to communicate what you believe will be of value to them in their life, and make sure that you're not just projecting your own weaknesses or your own voids in your life and forcing them to be something you want them to do because you didn't finish something. Make sure it's something truly valuable to them to help them in their life, and communicate it in a way where they're getting what their values are met. And if you can ask how specifically is doing that action helping them fulfill their values, and answer that 10, 20, 30 times, the more you answer that, the more able you'll be to communicate what you want in terms of their values. The more they do, the more resilient they will become, because anytime you're in your highest values, you're more neutral. And anytime you're in your lower values, you're more volatile, more extreme, more absolute. Just like in the study of moralities, you've got relativism at the top of the morality game and absolutisms at the bottom. And the absolutisms are black and white are non-resilient and non-adaptable. And when you try to reason with somebody who's in black and white thinking, they're resistant, and they're not creative, and they're not empowered in that state, and they're not confident in that state. There's a lot of uncertainty and bias. So the second we get them in their highest values and communicate in their highest values and respect their highest values, the more easy it is to be a parent. Again, if you help them get what they want to get in life, you'll get what you want to get in life. So care enough to communicate what you value or what you believe will help them in terms of their values, by asking how specifically is their value helping you so you can appreciate their values, and how specifically is the thing you want them to incorporate in their life, how's it helping them fulfill their values. And if you can do that in a way where they can see it, they'll take on the activity, they'll be more resilient, they'll be more confident, they'll do it because they love it. Just like, my son loved video games. He's very confident in his video games, but doing chores and stuff wasn't his confidence. But if I communicated how specifically that activity is going to help him in video games, he'd take it on. So my job is to figure out how to articulate what I wanted him to do in terms of what he wanted to do. And then he would do it because he could see that it was going to help him in what he wanted. And that's the key. And that's the same thing as selling. All caring is selling. And all selling is communicating what you value in terms of what they value. And if you help them do that, you have sustainable fair exchange. You win, they win. It's not a zero-sum game. It's a non-zero-sum game where both people win and there's both productivity. And this allows your children to have the most resilience and confidence. Whenever they're able to do what's highest on their value, they spontaneously are inspired from within to do it. And that's where confidence comes. When you're spontaneously inspired to do something, you can't wait to get up in the morning and do it. You just keep doing it. You master it. You develop the skills. You practice it. You perform it. Your fine motor skills become more effective. Your executive function becomes more online. You become more confident, and you become more resilient because you're more objective and less volatile and less polarized in your perspective. See, when you're highly polarized, you fear the loss of that which you seek, and you fear the gain of that which you try to avoid. So if you're highly judgmental and highly polarized in your perception, you're not resilient. So that's what happens if you impose autocratically onto the child what they don't want to do, and they can't see how it's going to help them do what they want. They go into their amygdala, they go into this fundamental black and white thinking and put on defense and get reactive and get volatile and create emotional blackmail symptoms in order to get you to do what, help them do what they want. And in the process of doing it, you lose your resilience. So communicate what you value in terms of your children's values, and you'll help the resilience and confidence in their life. That's one of the reasons I teach the breakthrough experience. Now, although there are children that attend the breakthrough experience in some cases, most of the people that attend are adults. And that is one of the things that the adults have said, that since they've learned the value system, how to determine values, how to communicate in values, how to do links in values, not only has it helped them in their life become more resilient and confident, not only has it helped them empower the 7 areas of life, but it's helped them in their communication with their spouse and their kids. And knowing how to communicate what they value in terms of other people's values has made a huge difference in their dynamics and their relationships. So if for some reason you have children, or you're in a relationship, or you're trying to communicate what you want in terms of what other people want, so you have more dialogue, not alternating monologues, attend the breakthrough experience. Come to the breakthrough experience and let me show you how to do that. Let you experience doing it so you know how to apply it, so you can see the results of that, because it can make a huge difference in the way you raise the kids, what their outcomes are, and the dynamics you have in your relationships, not just your at home, but also in your social life and business, your customers, but definitely in your family dynamics. So come and join the breakthrough experience so I can show you how to have you and the family and the kids have more confidence and resilience.